I'm turning 28 soon. I've only got so much libido left.
You got a little more, I guess. Nah, you know what? On second thought, you're right. They say you only got what, like 10,000 cranks? I'm at 9,998.
I got two good ones
I
left.
got it too.
1, 2, 3, 4.
These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that pops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French.
Oui, oui.
If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners. Yum, yum. Oscar Wieners.
Welcome to Oscar Wieners,
Okay.
the only show on the internet where Hollywood's biggest night is a dummy candidate. I'm hanging Chad.
Oh, that's good. And I'm Cadbury egg for some reason.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Because every political candidate needs to stop for a little sweet treat every once in a
Yes,
while.
they do.
Um,
You ever see Joe Biden on the road having a little gobstopper every once in a while?
um, no, I'm Michael. He is not Cadbury Egg.
Damn.
He's Ander. And this is a podcast where every week we pick a Best Picture winner at random and try to figure out if it's Best Picture worthy. And this week we're talking about the 1950 Best Picture winner, All the King's Men,
Sexist.
directed by Robert
Redford?
Robert Redford. Um,
My man.
Robert Rosen also directed The Hustler, a movie
Cool.
with Paul Newman that's really good, and then Martin Scorsese made a sequel to it called The Color of Money, which I fucking love. Um,
Shout out to Marty. I like that he's a Rawson is he a one and only? Is this a one and done for Rawson? We get a lot of repeat directors in this.
I think so.
Respect.
The Hustler might have been nominated for Best Picture.
Okay.
Um,
I didn't
yeah,
mean to use one and done as a term of disrespect, by the way.
I think you meant to say a one pump chump, and that is offensive.
No, no. Rawson is not a one pump chump, dude. He's got hits. He's got deep cuts that'll satiate anybody.
Yeah, so All the King's Men is it's based on a novel because why wouldn't it be
Why
by
wouldn't it be?
Robert
Yeah.
by Robert Penn Warren, which I think he won the Pulitzer for this book. And it follows John Ireland as Jack Burton, just an enigma of a character, truly an audience surrogate where you're like, what does he think and feel? Um,
Sorry, I just can't get over John Ireland. Look at this fucking John Ireland over here.
yeah, so Jack Burton is a journalist, um, and he is sent to cover. Let me try and get to this shit quick so we can talk about the movie.
You got it. No, you got it.
He's sent to cover Willie Stark, played by Broderick Crawford. Willie Stark is this very is a local guy who's running for office in his town because he lives in a very corrupt town. What state is it again? Do you remember?
I could not figure out for the life of me where in the country they were. It's some rural.
Is it Kansas?
It feels Kansasian.
Yes,
Um,
Kansasian, right.
they're in Sonoma County. I don't know if that's a real place,
Right.
but that's where they are.
Yeah. So Willie Stark is running for local government because the local government in his community is very corrupt. And so Jack Burton is sent to cover this, and while there, he is sort of inspired by Willie Stark, how like humble and sort of like kind of a regular guy he is. But Willie Stark loses, uh, Willie Stark goes to law school, becomes a lawyer.
Yeah, yeah,
In town, there's an accident that part of his campaign originally was like, we got to fix the schools because these guys don't give a shit. And an accident happens at the school. So Willie Stark uses that as a way to like get really like to run for office again, running on that. And
yeah.
does he become the local whatever mayor or whatever?
He becomes no, I don't think he
No,
does.
right?
I think he goes straight to governor.
Yeah, he's a lawyer, then he just goes straight to governor.
Yeah, well, I mean, like he gains a lot of steam politically from his lectures, his speeches, his tours, and he ends up getting a lot of funding from actually the corrupt uh, bureaucratic system that actually put up a lot of these other different puppet candidates. They're like, oh, this guy's actually gaining some steam. Let's throw some money his way and put him in our pockets.
Right. And yeah, so then like two other candidates that are running for governor of ambiguous southern state are they're like this guy, he might get some support, so we should have him as like you said, like a puppet candidate so that, you know, the vote can be spread out and then one of us will actually win.
Yeah,
Then Willie Stark is on the campaign trail. He realizes he's a puppet candidate. It's revealed to him, and then because he's like kind of just like saying the facts, and people are kind of bored at his rallies.
yeah. And then he goes fucking
Um,
ballistic.
then he goes ballistic once he finds that out, and he's like, "I'm a hick like you. You look at you fucking dirty hicks.
Yeah, it's
We
kind of
gotta
awesome.
take back this fucking." Yeah, it's fucking sick.
They're like, oh shit.
I kind of get why initially people are like, "Whoa, who's this guy?"
You
Um,
fucking dirty ass fucking egg. I'm
Look at
one of
you, you
you
got dirt from
too.
the fields. I'm like you. I've picked a turnip in my time.
Yeah.
Ander,
Yes.
this is your favorite movie.
Yeah, it's true.
You've
Yeah.
seen it so many
I've seen
times.
it almost 100 times.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
What was your experience watching it?
I can't tell. I think this is, you know what? I don't even think this is the most frustrated I've been made by a movie in this Best Picture pantheon.
Interesting.
I'll tell you why. Because
Yeah,
it
please
starts
explain.
out blazing hot, in my opinion, and it ends ice cold, just freezing, frigid temperatures. When we
Yeah.
start, first of all, we're seeing some really beautiful, vivid, high contrast black and white shots, like different crowds, and the music is very like inviting and beautiful and vivid, and everything involved just lets me. We're doing like actual scenery changes, which is so unusual for films of this era. I feel like we're often stuck in one setting, and the moment that they move over to, I believe the town is called Burton's Landing, where our main character Jack Burton is from.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, it's really a great moment because I'm like, oh, look how beautiful this is, and we're seeing all this nice scenery, and he's back home, and different changes, and things are very visually interesting. And then by the time it gets to Willie Stark's shift in attitudes, and he starts to become, power hungry and corrupt, you think it's the stakes would multiply, and they just dilute so much. It just gets way more uninteresting. And I think it kind of just crumbles under the weight of, I don't know if they're trying to do too much, or it gets so much less interesting. They're just like stuck in like we went from like vivid scenery changes and like open fields and to just cramped little offices and mayoral halls, and it just becomes it becomes painful to watch by the honestly by the end of the first 20-25 minutes.
I mean, similarly, I guess for me, less to do with the scenery and more just like the content. Like, I feel like the first, I wasn't like loving the first like I can't remember when the change is with Billy Stark. Maybe it's like 35 minutes in where he like gives that hick speech and
Yeah, that's
like
about right.
that switch happens. Um, but those first 35 minutes, I was like, this is like interesting. I'm
Yeah,
interested to see where this goes. But then once the turn happens, the movie really just becomes watching this guy be corrupted by power. And it doesn't really have like a lot to say about that. Like it's just
it's
sort of like this, it just like sort of spins its wheels being like he does these like kind of dirty deals with like, questionable people in order to get funding for his campaign and like get funding for like the hospital or the schools or whatever. And it's like but I'm like I don't
nothing
like
really
it
escalates.
yeah, it's like you can say that to me in 5 minutes and I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, guy
What,
just
what else?
gets
What else do you
corrupt.
have to show me? Like, I don't
Yeah, what
understand.
else?
And then like, there's no. I think maybe the movie's counting on us being really invested in Willie Stark's like shift and eventual downfall. But like Jack Burton is the audience surrogate, and he is like nothing. He has nothing. Like you're like, what does he feel? What does he think about this? Like towards the end, he gets like a little bit more like, oh, maybe I should drop Willie Stark. But like the whole movie, people are telling him like, or like for most of the movie, people are telling him like, you should like ditch that guy because he's like kind of bad news. And he's like, nah, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
I
And
don't
you're like,
really, it's
why is
so
he doing that?
confusing.
Yeah,
And it's not just him. I feel like all the whole cast of characters, I feel like start pretty interesting and then they just become diluted and way less so. Um, I mean, Jack Burton's he's the prime example because you're right. He's kind of by the end he's just a nothing wishy-washy character. In the beginning, at least he's got convictions. He's a bright-eyed young reporter who comes from a wealthy family, but he doesn't want to go into a high earning profession like doctor or lawyer like his parents want him to because he wants to be a journalist. And then he's interested in what Willie Stark has to say because he's a man of the people and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, here's a guy who actually believes in some stuff, who has these character traits that we can go off of. And then by the end, I guess the message is he becomes corrupt too, but also he just has the attitude of being a guy who's just along for the ride for no real reason.
his character could be so interesting as like a guy coming from like immense privilege because he says over and over again like I don't like he sort of is like this kind of drifter guy. He's sort of like he's not really the black sheep in the family. It's more just like people are like you should like, maybe think about finally doing something with your life instead of just kind of roaming from job to job because you don't really need because his whole thing is like I don't really need to like work. Like
Yeah.
I have like inheritance or whatever. So like it's not finding like a career path that like is important to me doesn't really matter. I think it's interesting like the contrast of like this rich guy he's not like rich, but like this very wealthy guy becoming swayed by this like very like kind of like poor or like working class guy, like politician. And like that like tension could be interesting, but the movie never explores it. Like there's never tension when Willie like goes to Burton's Landing and is like, oh, this guy's like has lived a completely different life from me.
Yeah.
And like so that makes me distrustful of him or something that none of that is ever explored. And I'm like there's like such fertile ground for like the like just like interesting class stuff, but the movie doesn't give a shit about that.
There's nothing complex or nuanced. In fact, the movie doesn't give a shit about like the movie itself after 20 minutes. It's weird because it has all this setup and then it's like actually we don't really care about any of it. Like Jack and Anne's relationship is completely cast aside. There are large time skips. There's
Yeah.
like the 2 years where, Willie Stark goes to college and gets his law degree. And then
That's
there's
the
like another.
prequel that's coming out soon. Willie
Oh,
Stark
is
goes to
there?
college.
Oh, is that gonna that could explain that
Yeah,
whole?
it's gonna be on Paramount Plus.
Of course it is.
It's
As
a
it
limited
should be.
series. Yeah.
And there's another like 5 year, 6 year time skip
Yeah.
where certain characters just aren't even mentioned. Like Adam and Anne. Adam is Anne's brother. um, who are characters that are presented as relevant at the end of the movie, then are just disappeared for just a long swath of time. And then you can't just like treat them as if they were important the whole time when you just didn't, Like we didn't hear from them for 6 years.
Shepard Strudwick plays Adam Stanton, and like, yeah, his whole thing is like he's a doctor, and he's like, oh, I wish the state had like really good medical facilities because like this, we could use it. And then Willie Stark is like, I'm gonna make you fucking like what, like
Head surgeon or what? He's the head of the new
head of the
hospital.
head of the hospitals, and like Adam's conflicted about that, and until he decides not to be conflicted anymore, and he's like, I don't agree with your politics, but I'm gonna be the head of the hospital. It's like, then what the fuck are we talking about?
I guess the message of the film is that anybody, no matter how good your intentions, can become corrupted. Um,
Or like I think the movie kind of, yeah, it also, it's like I think to some degree Willie Stark, I think he says this at a few points throughout the movie. Like I do think he's to some degree has a point where it's like the system is completely fucked, and in order to play the game, you have to like kind of part. In order to be a part of the game, you have to participate in the game,
yeah,
which I think is interesting. But again, the movie, like, I feel like its exploration of that is like pretty shallow.
I think so too. And then somehow Willie ends up with well, doesn't end up, but like starts seeing Anne.
This is crazy.
It's so unexplained. It's ridiculous.
It happens too in such a way where I'm like, at first I'm like, first, okay, because we hadn't seen, like, speaking to your point about the time jumps, like, there's a point in the movie where it's like, oh, we haven't seen Anne for like a while. That when she pops up again and she's with Willie, I'm like, oh, who's this lady? Is this like a stranger? And then like somebody's like mentions that it's Anne. And I'm like, that's Anne? I forgot what
Right?
she looked like.
I haven't seen her in 30 minutes.
And it's just like, I don't know.
I
Like,
don't get it whatsoever.
it's like
Um,
she's just like swayed by his, I guess, because like, so it's like Anne and Jack have this kind of on again, off again romance where like Jack is like, one day I'm gonna marry you, and Anne's like, okay, I've been waiting for like a million years, so are you gonna do it anytime soon? Or, um, and then eventually, I guess like maybe she's drawn to Willie because he has like convictions and like, gets things done on paper, right? And it's like she's attracted to that, but it's like that's so boring.
but that, you know what? That would be more interesting than what the film presents to us. You know what the film presents to us? Because
Tell
she
me.
explain. Because at one point, Jack confronts Anne and says, "What do you even see in Willie Stark?" And she says, "He's like no one she ever knew." That's the quote that she says. And it's like, well, that's the vaguest, nonsensical thing I've ever heard.
Sorry, you might give it be a little more specific, Anne.
Like, why did you let him ruin your life? Like, what is so enticing about having a romance with this like way older married man?
It's just I
It
don't
had
even
so
hate
much
this movie.
potential.
Yeah, I don't even hate this movie. Like I had a totally fine time watching it. I thought like even though it's like kind of like shallow and a little bit like maybe simplistic about it's not even simplistic. Like what it's exploring, I feel like it's like there's because like watching it, I was like, this is potentially a movie that could still be like there's so much still relevant shit in it.
Yeah.
But it just the movie is not. The movie is the donut hole, but not the
I
donut hole. It's the hole in the donut. There's
Yeah,
nothing
not like a
there.
munchkin. It's the absence of dough.
Oh, beautiful, beautifully
Yeah.
put.
I wonder if our modern sensibilities taint our view a little bit because in hindsight, we can look at this and say there's so much more they could have said about politics and populism, and it really just scratches like the base level. Like there's really no deep dive into any of it. But they also didn't have the context that we have today. Like you're right, we have our current political landscape is so crazy, and it had the potential to be reflected in this movie that came out 70 years ago, 80
Right.
years ago. Um, so I guess I can't fault them for not having extreme foresight.
I just don't
Um,
understand why they don't even mention Trump in this movie.
yeah, it's
That's
ridiculous.
crazy.
That's nuts. Um, well, I mean, listen, like now we're getting into waters here, but they they could have mentioned Adolf Hitler. He was a wildly popular populist figure at the time. And I wonder if I almost thought they were going to start to draw comparisons. Like when they do the montage of Willie Stark at different speeches and rallies when he's gone off the deep end and he's like screaming at people. It's almost a little bit like I thought they were really going to lean into that and like evoke um um like remnants of Adolf, but
Yeah,
um I thought they were just going to have something stronger to say, and it didn't really feel like they did.
yeah, 100%.
Robert,
And
sorry.
Warren ass.
I guess it's really, yeah, it's true. Who's at fault here? Who do I
I don't know.
talk to about this? See, that's the problem with this book into movie nonsense.
Let's see. Robert Rosen died in 1966, so you can't talk to him.
Sorry,
Robert Penn Warren died in 1989, so you can't talk
almost.
to him either. He grew.
Okay,
Robert Penn Warren is from. He was born in a town called Guthrie, Kentucky.
that's cool.
That's
Oh,
kind of cool.
do you think this is like? Do you think this takes place in Kentucky? Nobody has a southern accent. I think Kansas was spot on.
I Yeah, I think it is Kentucky though, because I think
Oh,
I remember. I'm like, I think somebody says Kentucky maybe at some point. I was like, does anybody in this movie know about Kentucky? Like, have they been to Kentucky? You know?
I'm
So
sorry.
it's like, all right,
Is
Robert Warren
your
is from Kentucky.
your question is, does anybody in this movie know about Kentucky?
Have they ever heard of it? Or
Do they know? Do they know it's out
where
there?
we go from here?
That's it. Honestly, that's it.
It's kind of it. There's
That's
really
kind of it.
like, I think when the movie has juice, I think it's like kind of like Willie Stark is of the people, but has also lost his sense of who the people even are.
Yeah.
And yet he manipulates the poor and working class because he can be like, "Oh, I'm one of you." But it's like by the end he's so far gone from like he's so far gone from his humble beginnings that like I just think that's interesting.
But then it just devolves into a lot of meandering and it becomes so boring that anything the movie tried to say in the end just if they could have started to say anything, it would have fallen flat because I was so bored by that point.
Yeah.
And then it ends in the most insane way it could have
It ends
ended.
in the most it ends Willie Stark is assassinated by Adam.
Remember the guy that you definitely don't
Remember the
remember?
guy we talked about 15 minutes ago?
He owned a hospital and then was pissed about it.
He owned the hospital. He was Mr. Hospital, and then why
Dr.
does
Hospital.
he shoots Willie Stark because he finds out that Anne and Willie Stark are together? Is that why?
I don't know.
Or is it just because then also
I think he just
Adam
doesn't
and
want him to be well, because Willie Stark has been indicted for corruption charges, and I
by
guess
Adam and Anne's dad, right? Is that
no,
their dad?
no, that's their uncle.
Judge Stanton or
Their dad
whatever?
is dead. Their dad is a former governor who's died.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Gotcha. Gotcha.
But the judge did kill himself,
Right. I think, yeah,
kind of
it's
like
like,
because of Willie Stark.
yeah, it's like Willie Stark has just like completely destroyed this family.
Basically, Adam is like, this man deserves to not be in politics, the bare minimum. And when it turns out he's not indicted or not impeached, rather, he just decides, I'm just going to shoot this man.
Again,
It's,
like, it's like the movie old, if I watched this movie a year ago, no. If I watched this movie pre-January 6th, I think it would have less juice. But like when the movie like is weirdly paralleling what is happening right now, I'm like, this is bizarre.
it was, yeah. When they had that rally at the end, and like they were like, "Don't." They basically, I think they said, "Don't storm the Capitol" or something very close to that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, what the hell?
And then Anne and Jack are like because then Adam dies. He's shot by, I think he's shot by like
Sticky or whatever.
Willie Stark's like fucking security or whatever.
He called
And
sugar. It's like they called him like Sugar Pop or like Sugar Baby, and they've called him that since like he was just a guy working at the soda shop.
yeah, the local watering hole.
Yeah,
Yeah. So then Anne and Jack are Anne's like, we have to tell people about this. Like we like however long it takes, because like look, Willie Stark's supporters are still like ravenous for him, even though he's died. So we have to spread the word about his like malfeasance.
yeah.
Um, and then the movie cut, and it's credits, and then
But that's
it's
it. And then
done.
there's credits. Yeah,
When it fades to credits, I was like, wait, what?
it is always. It's so hilarious to me whenever you can't kill someone and then roll credits instantly. There's got to be some sort of digestion period where we're left in the wreckage to like figure out what happens to the main characters. But it does this has none of that. It's just like bang bang and then like I don't know, credits.
All right, that's fucking this movie, and it's fine. It's
It's
not
fine.
terrible.
No, it's not.
It's not like real. It's to me, at least for me, it wasn't super boring. Like it was more just sort of like I was waiting for the movie to have some like to say something that was unique or interesting, and
Yeah,
it's
it was
more
really
just like, oh,
disappointing.
it's more just like, oh, okay,
We're not mad, we're just disappointed.
yeah,
Also, I have no reviews.
really,
Yeah.
that's
Sorry.
that's totally fine. Ander,
Yes.
would you like to hear the other Best Picture nominees for the year of our Lord 1950?
Yes.
All right. First up, obviously, All the Kingsmen wins.
Cool.
Um, there's only five nominees, so don't plan to stay for too long.
All right.
Next up, we have a William A. Wellman joint,
Willie Wellman's in this?
Battleground. Who do we got here? We got Van Johnson, John Hodiak, Ricardo Montalban, and Battleground is about members of the U.S. Army's 101st Airborne Division who are fighting for their country amidst the rugged terrains of Bastogne, Belgium, in December 1944.
I love Gaston.
Bastogne. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
Gaston.
Um, Holly and his American compatriots have already seen one of their own. Rodriguez perished under enemy fire. The men try to rebuff another series of Nazi attacks, but they really need is a change in the weather. Without clear skies, they'll never get
Huh?
the air support they need.
No thanks.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that sounds a little weak sauce.
Sorry.
Um, okay. So that's a no for him.
Is that like a well, sorry, is there like a weather-based
War
move?
movie.
Like, is it like Twisters? Like, I don't understand. Like, they need the weather. They're just how much of the movie is waiting for the weather to clear up? Pass.
That's most of it, to be sure.
Great.
Um, all right, next up we have, again, it wouldn't be an Oscars year in this era without a William Wyler picture.
Wow.
He
He is
probably
everywhere.
he's probably made a million movies, I think. He's the first guy to ever do it.
And he's probably made
Um,
$1,000.
it's The Heiress, starring, who do we got? Fucking Olivia de Havilland. Montgomery Clift is back. Um,
Oh, no way.
Dull and plain Catherine lives with her emotionally distant father, Dr. Sloper, in 1840s New York.
Oh,
Her days are empty, filled with little more than needlepoint. Period. That's the end of the sentence.
okay.
Enter handsome Morris Townsend, a dashing social climber with his eye on the spinster's heart and substantial inheritance.
Oh,
That
okay.
sounds kind of fun.
All right. I like that. Imagine being in a movie where they describe you as dull and plain.
So that's the heiress. That sounds more interesting than All the King's Men.
Yeah.
Next up we have he's back.
No.
Mank.
No.
Joseph L. Mankiewicz of All About Eve fame, brother to Citizen Kane writer Henry Mankiewicz?
Herman?
Herman Mankiewicz, Jesus Christ. There
Yeah.
we go. I'm slipping.
5 years.
It's called A Letter to Three Wives.
Okay.
Um, Starring Ann Southern, Linda Darnell, uh, Jean Crane. Kirk Douglas is actually also here. A letter is addressed to three wives from their best friend, Addie Ross, announcing that she is running away with one of their husbands, but she does not say which one. That's a fun premise. It's a little thin.
It's
It
a,
seems like something you could clarify in like 2 seconds.
it's a,
Um,
I guess it's a fun premise, but it's also ridiculous. Like, what
that's
is
a
that
short
setup?
film. That's not an hour and 40-minute movie.
That's the whole description?
That's it. That's it.
I need to know. Imagine getting a letter from one of your buds, just being like, "Hey,"
I absconded with your wife.
but it might not be yours. It might be someone else's.
Yeah.
I kind of want to watch that. It
Yeah, it
seems
sounds
pretty
fun.
funny.
I mean, Mankiewicz, he's good. All About Eve was
He's
good, I
good.
thought. Yeah, he's good.
What can we say? All About Eve was good.
Yeah. It was. I just re-listened to that episode. This podcast is good. I re-listen to episodes all the time. I just think it's fun.
Yeah, me too.
I think everybody should listen to this podcast.
All right, relax. You're becoming a
Um,
demagogue. You're running for governor.
hey, you listen to me, you hicks.
You.
Finally, a Henry King film. It's 12
King.
o'clock high.
Hey, well, you know what I'm saying? Ah,
Yeah, it's
nah, forget it. You would have. Nah, you.
sorry, I have to make a call to the police for a second.
What do you mean?
Just stay where you
Yeah,
are.
no,
I have to call the cops.
this is unbelievable.
Starring Gregory Peck.
Oh,
In the early days of daylight bombing raids over Germany, General Frank Savage, cool name, must take command of a
yeah.
hard luck bomber group. Much of the story deals with his struggle to whip his group into a disciplined fighting unit in spite of heavy losses and withering attacks by German fighters over their targets. Sounds fine.
Sounds fine.
Sounds like a typical ass World War II movie.
Yeah. That's. I bet you they were really close. The Academy was really close to making that. Because they love that. They love war. They're just like, let's get it in the pantheon.
All right, those are the movies. Do you think All the King's Men is Best Picture worthy?
No, no.
Wow.
We've had a bit of a lucky streak where I do think that at the very least the film was worthy of the Oscar. But I don't think it captured my attention enough, frankly. Movies are entertainment at their core, and if this one does not provide that, I can't give you the Oscar. Enough said.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
Um,
Do you think?
I I guess I agree. I don't know. It's hard to put yourself obviously in a position it's hard to put yourself in a time period where you were not alive for.
True.
Because I don't know, maybe this movie was like super relevant to the times and like
What if I
uh
told you I could? Time travel wise.
what, what do you mean?
I've been working. I'm working in the shop a little bit. No, I got a little bit of a device that can bring us to 1949.
I'd rather go to 1969.
I know that's right, brother. Where we're going 1969, we won't need hanging chads.
Putting glasses over your glasses is always funny.
Yeah. What's even better is pulling glasses off of your glasses to reveal second
That
glasses.
actually
That's a
is
power move.
that's actually even funnier.
Yeah, power move for
Um,
sure.
all right. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think this movie is Best Picture worthy, I guess.
There is a remake
Oh, by
with
who?
Sean Penn,
Oh,
everyone's favorite guy.
most chill man in Hollywood.
I think like when I was searching for this, I kept getting that. So I
He's
think there's
he's
a
he's Willie Stark.
I would imagine so.
God, that's probably a really subtle, nuanced performance from Sean.
Go go check it out.
Yeah. All right. Next week, What are we talking about? Fuck it. Fuck
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Next week, we are talking about 1952 Best Picture winner.
Oh,
We're staying in this time. We're all right. So we had a horrible experience watching Gigi. We're
yeah.
returning to Vincent Minnelli with an American in Paris to see if this guy is just a sicko fuck or if he actually has the juice.
I think he's a sicko. I think he's. I'm ready to fully. This is. I know this is not a good view to take before even seeing the film, but I'm ready to just absolutely tear this thing to shreds. I'm ready to just. I have with the little power and sway and influence that I have. I will just muster all of it to just really rend this thing.
It's a musical, so right off the bat we're starting on an incline.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, so until then, go out and vote.
Oh yeah,
It's coming up.
vote Willie Stark.
But vote Willie Stark. But when you're at the fucking voting booth,
Guess what?
uh-oh, it's too late. You had work, so you have to rush to the voting booth at your local fucking middle school or whatever.
Yeah.
You haven't had time to have dinner,
Oh no.
so of course you stop at the hot dog cart.
It's so obvious.
You're like, give me everything. I'm starving. Give me fucking
Onions,
onion. Give me chopped onions. Give me fucking
relish,
relish.
sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut, sour cream.
Ew, okay.
Um, batter and fry that shit. And then go
Why?
to the voting booth,
Yeah,
cover your fucking ballot, because nobody has right to know who you voted for.
they can't
Just
ask.
get fucking mustard and ketchup all over that thing.
Smear it everywhere. Make it disgusting. Make it so the next person that comes up is like, I'm never voting again. Last time I voted, it was just covered in ketchup and mayonnaise. Yeah,
Like they have to be like, hey, could you clean up this voting booth? It's covered in
yeah.
gunk.
Make sure you get out of there fast. Like, don't even grab your I voted sticker. Just beeline out of there because they will know it's you.
Yeah. So do that. Coming up in a month, so do
Yeah.
that. And
Exercise your right.
yeah, exercise your right to eat a hot dog in a voting booth like an
And that
American.
is my right. I might actually do that this time around.
Beautiful. Um, see you next week, Wieners.
Bye bye.
1, 2, 3, 4.
These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that microwave shit. They want the shit that bops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners. Oscar Wieners. I think I might really do that for real.
Just like go in a voting booth and eat.
Let's see if anybody says anything.
Like with the fucking corn dog.
Yeah, what are they gonna say? Sir, you can't have that here? Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was America.